Fireworks, applause, and a rush for the exit. The opening ceremony has finished. 60,000 people are heading your way. This is the first real test, and the world is watching. This is a video from the London Olympics, the opening ceremony on day one. Everything goes to plan, just like the crowd modelling forecast. So my name's Martin Peat. I'm currently Becca's technical lead for the crowd modelling at the Rio 2016 Olympics and Paralympics. And being based in Brazil, my role involves assessing spectator movements and providing operational advice across all of the competition venues for both the Olympics and the Paralympics. Through this presentation, I'll provide an insight into organising an Olympic Games, explain what crowd modelling involves, and the value it contributes to a successful event. Significantly, this is the first time an Olympics has been hosted in South America, and the world is watching. Across 16 days of competition for the Olympics and another 10 for the Paralympics, there will be 32 venues in operation and 42 Olympic sports. We're expecting around 10 to 12,000 athletes and a whopping 7.5 million spectators. Added on top of this is a global audience of 900 million viewers. It starts to add up. The world is definitely watching what we're doing. In delivering an Olympic Games, there's multiple parties that are involved. In 2009, Rio de Janeiro was announced as the host city for 2016. And over the next 7 years, a local organising committee is formed, taking shape to plan and deliver the Games. Now there's essentially a three-tier structure. On top, the International Olympic Committee has the ultimate decision in who's awarded the Games, where it takes place. As the organisation progresses, they continue to oversee what's happening and often hold regular project reviews, increasing in intensity as the Games draw near. There's 3 levels of government involved, each having a different role and responsibility. From the state government, underneath it sits the local municipality, the city council essentially, and you've got Brazil's the national government sitting on top of everything. A separate entity was established by the local council, EOM, essentially the Olympic executive, and they have a budget of approximately 40 billion reais to deliver new infrastructure and public transport upgrades. To put in perspective, that translates to about 40 billion New Zealand dollars, a whopping budget. The local organising committee, Rio 2016, is our ultimate client. With an operating budget of about 7.5 billion reais, about 3.5 billion New Zealand, they're responsible for implementing all of the temporary overlay, so anything that's not permanent and kept after the Games, and ultimately delivering firstly the planning, the design, and then the events themselves. To complicate things, Brazil's headed into a large recession, and to avoid using public money, the budget's been cut by about 30%, so about 2 billion reais. So where did it all begin? Athletes talk about their road to Rio, how they're going from where they are now to get to the Olympic Games. So I'd like to touch briefly on my road to Rio, and that starts back in London probably 6 years ago now. 2009, we were awarded a contract to do crowd modelling at the London Olympics, and I was fortunate to be involved in that from being a fresh graduate, 3 years working on the project, ending up in London itself to help deliver the Games. I spent 3 months over there and it was an invaluable experience. The combination of planning and operational experience that I was able to gain in London was unique for a modeller. If you think of a computer modeller or a traffic modeller, they're normally stuck behind a desk in an office in a back room somewhere. Very rarely do they get out and be in charge of operating what they've designed. So this put me in a niche position with Olympic experience that's quite hard to come by. From London, we proceeded and were successful working on the Sochi Winter Olympics, and the experience was then vital for the bid for the Rio 2016 Olympics, where the client requested that I was the representative on the ground. Quite a lot of kudos and good recognition for some hard work leading up to that. So I took the plunge, and I'm about 12 months into an 18-month stint overseas. Working across in Brazil has brought across a huge amount of opportunities. Down the bottom on the left, that's a site visit. So it's pretty hard when you have to walk a couple of hundred meters down to the beach to check out the venue for the beach volleyball. It's hard to skip the obvious. Great culture, colourful people, and amazing beaches. I've found the biggest personal challenge is the language, and so I'm taking classes in Portuguese to help me better communicate and fit into the work environment. Speaking even a few sentences has helped to be accepted around the office. On a daily basis, most of my technical work is being done in English. A lot of the technical language around the Olympics is in English because it transitions from games to games, and so it's a global language that everybody speaks. But most of the staff in the office are locals from Rio de Janeiro or around Brazil. And the level of English has quite a broad spectrum, from those who are proficient and have worked internationally to people who are slowly learning or don't speak much English at all. So it's really great having alongside me a project manager from our partner company, Contemporary International, and he's been based in Brazil for a long time, speaks fluent Portuguese. So together, the two of us, we make a pretty awesome team over there. As most of our work's delivered in English, it's been an important lesson to being able to convey the information that we're providing. And so I found my reporting style to be evolving and adapting to the local conditions. Reports are more pictorial and graphical, as this makes it easier to convey what you're trying to say to people with English as a second language, especially when there's really important messages to get across. As the only person from Beca in Brazil, there's a number of challenges in leading the team back here in New Zealand. Around 3 or 4 different offices in New Zealand, we've got 12 people working on the job. An offshore team is great for providing a quick turnaround of work, often overnight, but it does need really good communication, as you can't just ring up and ask a question anytime. One or other of us are going to be asleep. My experience in London and then in Brazil enables our team to provide a solutions-based approach to crowd modelling. And by this, I mean using operational experience from previous games to add value and provide assistance in creating operational plans. At the end of the day, how are staff and volunteers on the ground going to manage spectator movements, and what happens when the unexpected happens? Something doesn't go to plan, it rains, or there's an emergency. The organising committee is made up of 64 different departments. Our client is Event Services, and they're the main contact point between spectators who arrive to a competition to watch and the Olympics organisation. Their mission is focused on the spectator experience, to make the experience pleasant and positive beyond anybody's expectations. And they aim to achieve this by ensuring a smooth and secure flow of spectators, looking out for potential problems, and offering positive solutions. They're going to help. So of the 64 different departments or functional areas, our team works closely with quite a few. Transport, getting people to the venues. Venue design, mostly architects who are creating the CAD plans, coming up with the concepts. Venue management are responsible for the operation of the venue, and once the games go live, they're at the top of the pecking order. They're the ones that make the key decisions. Security is really important in major events, the Olympics especially. So we work really closely with them to screening spectators as they come into a park or a venue. And of course, ticketing. Everybody who turns up has a ticket. Somebody has to stand there and manually scan that ticket as they come in. At the heart of crowd modelling is planning and understanding the spectator routes, studying the journey from when they get off their transport, through security and the venues, to the venues, and then back again. An Olympic Park is a unique environment. In Rio, there are 9 venues centred around a common area. So this is the Olympic Park out at Baja. It used to be a Formula 1 track, and over the last 7 years, they've converted it into what's going to be a pretty neat sports complex. We've got 9 venues ranging from cycling, tennis, to aquatics. Handball, which is really popular in Europe, is in Future Arena. Basketball in Karaoke Arena 1 and Karaoke Arena 2 and 3 have events such as fencing, weightlifting, wrestling, and a couple of the other niche sports. Karaoke is the name for a local person from Rio de Janeiro. Over the top of this, as we go through our crowd modelling process, we overlay what spectators are doing. So at the bottom of the screen, we've got a representation of transport. At the Olympic Park, there's 2 bus hubs where people will turn up, conveniently one on either side. From there, spectators firstly pass through security, and that's airport-style security, where you walk through a magnometer and stick your bag through an X-ray. Following that, you get your ticket scanned, and then you're free to roam the park. So an Olympic Park has multiple venues, and as you go in, you can explore the park. There's a live site at the rear and lots of opportunities for food and beverage. It makes quite a challenge when it comes to putting that in a model and trying to estimate what people are going to be doing. Outside the park, and in this project outside our responsibility, is city operations. City operations are the interface with the city. So in Rio for the Olympics, anything inside the secure perimeter is controlled by the organising committee, and anything outside is the responsibility of the city. At the top, we've got the live site, and halfway down, a spectator plaza, where there's lots of opportunities for people to dwell, and a big mega store for Olympic merchandise. So one of the first steps was identifying where a spectator's heading, where they're going when they arrive, and where they're going when they depart. So on top of the plans, we overlay where we expect spectators to be heading. In blue, we've got the arrivals, and in red, we've got the departures, people leaving. And the key thing from a crowd modelling perspective is trying to minimise conflicts. It's really difficult when you've got two groups of people trying to head different directions, crossing over, and creating general conflict and chaos. Crowds are safer and easier to manage when everybody's heading the same direction. So one thing that's common practice is separating flows with crowd management barriers down the middle. In this example, to reduce the number of conflict points where spectators need to cross, it works better if we flip the flows around. So instead of having people coming out on the red line on the right hand side, we're going to flip it across and simplify it so that people leave on the right and they walk in on the right. This is also really convenient that it matches the local custom. Everybody across there walks on the right hand side, they drive on the right hand side. If you come up to someone else, you're going to pass them on the right hand side. For a more in-depth perspective of crowd management, we look at dynamic modelling, and that's got spectator flows where people meet and cross. So why crowd modelling? Crowd modelling has many aspects to it. Safety is the most critical aspect and involves estimating the number of people arriving and leaving at any particular point in time and looking at what space they're using. The organising committee's got a very dynamic workforce, as the event is in place every 4 years and there's new faces at the Games every time. Modelling helps to justify infrastructure to what's needed, and this involves working collaboratively between all the different groups to work out what's going on, where people are going. By looking at the whole spectator experience, from arrivals to departures, crowd modelling is able to reduce queues, minimise crowding, and ultimately save money. If spectators spend longer in the park, they're more likely to spend more money. As we transition to Games time, it's a good opportunity to summarise. As this change occurs, our integrated approach involves all stakeholders. Crowd modelling shifts from looking at the design of venues to how they're best operated. We know there's going to be known unknowns, known unknowns, and unknown unknowns. So there's lots of different things that could happen. Creating legacies is a strong point and something that's really key. As a personal legacy, I've been fortunate to start involvement in the Cricket World Cup and commemorations for Anzac Day, and that's been something that I've been able to bring back to New Zealand. So welcome to Rio. The Olympics is a huge undertaking. With 7 years of planning and a workforce that's larger than most companies, there's one opportunity to get it right. The world is watching. Thank you.